Let me guess, you are a beginner in Unity. If that's true, I believe you're on the right track. My journey with Unity began 3 years ago with a tutorial, and now I'm a professional developer. So today I am going to teach you. Hi, I'm Lissa and welcome to my channel. And before we begin, let's introduce our project. The main advantage of this game is that it can be created using only preloaded assets, eliminating the need for additional sprites or meshes. But firstly, what is Unity? It's a game engine that offers a wide array of tools. Some help you model physics, other animate characters, some even let you create custom tools, and there are those that allow you to modify the engine itself. Sounds powerful? It truly is. Let's start by downloading Unity Hub on the official website. After that, you should activate your license. Click on the gear icon in the top right corner. Then select License Management and choose Activate New License. If the Activate New License button is disabled, you should click on the Account button and sign in Unity. Once activated, proceed to download the Unity editor. This main program provides access to all the amazing tools I mentioned earlier. Return to the main interface and click the arrow next to the Preferences button. Select the Install step. Click Add and choose the latest LTS long-term support version of Unity. Wait for the editor to download and install on your computer. Great, you're almost set. Now let's create our game project. Go to the Projects tab. Click New. Choose a 3D project type. Enter project name. Well, let it be like Simple Runner and click Create. Now let's dive in. In Unity, you'll notice several tabs like Game, Main Scene, Inspector, Hierarchy, and Project Assets. To add your first game object, right-click on the Hierarchy tab, select 3D object, and then choose Plane. Select the newly added plane in the list. In the Inspector window, you'll see details about the object. Here you can change some characteristics like name or activity. Okay, it's obvious, but do you notice the sections in the inspector called Transform, Plane, Mesh Filter, Mesh Renderer, and Mesh Collider? What are these? In Unity, all objects consist of components. It's like a puzzle game where you choose the characteristics you want your object to have and apply the required components. Each component does its own job. For example, Transform records the local position of an object and calculates it for the world space. Now ensure that all the position coordinates are set to 0. If they are not, you can manually set them to 0 or right-click on the Components menu and select the Reset option. You should now see our plane in the Scene tab and the Game tab. For your convenience, you can drag the Game tab and split the screen to see both the Scene and Game views simultaneously. But that's up to you. Let's get to the point. You can move the camera and objects in the Scene tab, but you can't do that in the Game tab. Why? Because the Game tab shows you the render from the main camera. This camera is visible in the hierarchy list and will render your entire game after building. To change the position of the game view, you need to move the camera. Select it in the hierarchy list and adjust the position and rotation values in the inspector. You can copy all values from the screen to ensure everything works correctly. Now you might be thinking, what's this plane doing here? Well, it's the ground, and yes, it looks tiny. So let's touch it until the edge is not visible in the game view. To do that, click on the plane in the Scene view. Select the Rect tool in the menu and drag the edge. Imagine you're stretching pizza dough but with fewer calories. It's time to jazz up our ground. Right-click on the Project tab and add a new folder, name Materials. Pretty straightforward. Double-click the folder, then right-click again in the Project tab. Select Material and name it Ground, or anything else that makes sense to you. Click on the material and look in the inspector. Now we get into the technical part. Don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds. So what is a material? Think of it as a customized suit for your game objects. And it's an instance of a shader. It means that a shader has parameters that you can set to the various data. Now here's a brain teaser. What's a shader? A shader is a special optimized program used by GPU graphic processing unit, to render objects on your screen. Shaders are used not only in Unity, but in every game. You can write shaders in different programming languages. Seems like writing shaders is hard. Well, yes and no. Writing them from scratch can be challenging, but it's totally doable. Luckily, Unity provides many privileged shaders. And in URP pipeline, you have a fantastic tool called Shader Graph, which lets you create custom shaders without writing a single line of code. Sounds magical, right? But don't worry, we're not diving into that today because in this project our pipeline is built in. And now let's stick to the preloaded shaders and make our ground look cool. As a default, Unity suggests a standard shader, but there are enough options. First, let's add our material to the plane. How do you do that? Simply drag it and release it right on the plane in our hierarchy tab. After that, you can see all the changes you make it to the material, in both the scene and game views. Now here's a challenge for you. Try changing every parameter of the material. Why? Because the best way to learn is practicing. Give it a go and see what you come up with. Don't worry if it looks strange at first, experimenting is key. But I want to create a sand orange ground, so I'll change only the color of my material. Simple, but I think it will be enough. Look at that, the ground looks better, but doesn't the scene still seem a bit empty? Let's add a road. How do we do that? Just add another plane. Click the plus sign in the top left corner, select 3D object, choose plane. We should set the position of the road a little above the ground. The road should have visible edges to stand out. Next, let's create a material for this road. Do you remember how we did it for the ground? Follow the same steps. I'll set the color to asphalt gray. Okay, most runners have 3 parts of the road, so should we. We need to separate the road into 3 parts to show where our character will move. To do this, create 2 more planes and place them slightly above the road. Stretch them into long strips. To place it correctly, position the first strip the way you want, and then copy the X coordinate for the second one from it, but with the opposite sign. Using this method will help you achieve symmetry. I left them white, but you can add materials if you want. Did you know you can nest one game object inside another, just like in a folder in Unity? That's why the tab is called Hierarchy. Why is this important? Because you can create a lot of nested objects and the positions of these objects will be interconnected. Take a look at the transform component. See those values. They represent the local position, but what does it mean? If an object has no parent, the local position and the world position will be the same. However, if it does have a parent, the local and world position could be different. It's really essential for coding and for understanding how Unity works. And now I'm placing the road inside the ground objects and strips inside the road object. Take a look at how the parameters of the transform components of these objects are changing. Okay, look at our scene. If you're familiar with the basics of game design, you might notice that we now have a game space. For our runner, the game space consists of 3 points. In front of the camera, our character can be positioned, the left road line, the center road line and the right road line, and of course, the space behind these points. The obstacles will be placed. But wait, don't you think I've missed something? Of course, it's the character itself. What should we use for our character? We can use any simple mesh. I prefer to use a cylinder. Here's how to do it. Right-click on the Hierarchy tab, select 3D object, choose your preferred 3D object, cube, capsule, cylinder or sphere. We should place our character in the center of the road, right in front of the camera. And I also added a material on it. You might be thinking, isn't this simple? In the next part of the lesson, we'll compensate for these simple forms with good-looking animations, so it will be rather nice. Click on the next part to see the process.